Assalamualaikum and hi. My name is Nur Emilia Hayani binti Muhammad Faiz as a first presenter. In introduction, we will study about the biological diversity. In biological diversity, it has many concepts to be understood. It is because every concept in biological diversity is about a different thing and focus. So, it has a three concept in biological diversity, which is a genetic diversity, species diversity, and habitat diversity. Also, in here we will study about the factor that will make the biological diversity become increase and decrease. For the instance, the factor that make the biological become increase is amount of disturbance and reforestation. And for the decrease is climate change and human impact on biodiversity. Furthermore, it has a several ways to preserve the environment, which is tree planting, use reusable bag, natural preserve, and strengthen the government legislation. So, it will help to protect and preserving the environment from being polluted because it will give bad effect to us and if we do not preserve the environment.
Hai, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh and salam sejahtera to my fellow classmates and Dr. Shawal. My name is Muhammad Shakib bin Samsul and I'm going to present about what is biodiversity. Now, biodiversity can be defined in many ways. Firstly, the concept of biodiversity is the diversity of the species. There are three qualities that we are looking into this concept, which is the species richness, the species evenness, and the dominance of the species. The first quality is about the richness of the species, where it regards with the huge number of various species in our ecosystems. The species evenness is about the equality numbers of the species, while for the dominance of the species, it is about what is the majority species in our ecosystem. And the dominance of the species can be contributed in many factors, such as how the species can cope with the habitat landscape in that particular area, such as the kangaroo in Australia, where it becomes the dominant species as the kangaroo are suitable with the habitual landscape in that country. Other than that, biodiversity also can be identified by dissecting to three parts of techniques in determining the variable of the species in our ecosystem, which are genetics, species, and community. And last but not least, generally, biodiversity can be defined as the variety of life on Earth. Every species in the biodiversity is relying to one another and has its own important roles. There are millions of species that consist in our ecosystem, and some of them were already extinct and some are the endangered species. But most of the biodiversity life still manage to survive until these days.
The factor that make the biological diversity become increased is moderate amount of disturbance. It will happen when a plant or animal are able to grow and reproduce, even get the pressure from the natural disturbance. Even the disturbance can give bad effect and loss, but it has some benefit from that. So natural disturbance can happen through fire, storm, and extreme flow of water. Then, when fire happens in the forest, because of natural disturbance, it can increase the soil fertility because fire from that can change the nutrient found in the dead tissue. It is because some of nutrient dynamic more responsive toward fire, and it can increase the potassium, calcium, magnesium ions in the soil. Also, if there is excessive rain happen, it will benefit the soil and which it will make the plant in that area more fertilized. For example, like the jet pine, which is in need of fire to stimulate their reproductive cycle. Then, by that, the soil and plant more fertile because some of the seeds only can germinate when burned by the fire.
Assalamualaikum. My name is Arina binti Muhammad Izam as the third presenter. Thank you, Amelia. The next point is the increased factor is deforestation. In this context, it means that we do reforestation by replanting tree in a designated area. It is because it can improve the biodiversity at a particular area, especially the agricultural land, which increase productivity, reduce exposure to invasion by species, and increase the ecological resistance to pressure. Thus, it can be seen that greater biodiversity in ecosystem, individuals and species leads to a greater stability. That is why every party needs to do reforestation on environment, because this can reduce the global warming. So we can see that our government has made a numerous programs with DBKL at the local government level by replanting tree at the residential area, because they want to encourage the citizen.
Now, we're moving on to the decreased factor of biological life in our ecosystem. Human activities such as the development activity could give the negative impact towards our biodiversity life. It can cause the changes in biological communities globally. For an instance, the extinction of the species, which can scatter and make a mess to the function of the ecosystem, because biodiversity life are relying to one another. And if one of the species was extinct, it will give the significant impact to some of the life in this complex ecosystem. The example on the changes that can decrease the biodiversity life that we all can clearly observe is the destruction of wildlife habitat that was caused by the human for the sake of the development. Deforestation activity is one of the activities that are often happen in every country, as the human are racing through the rapid development in their own area. And this activity could threaten the habitat of the wildlife, as they lost the place that become as their shelter and the place where they are looking for their food. And not only limited to that, it also threatening the human life, as the trees in the forest are providing the oxygen to the human.
Hello, my name is Vanessa Nawai, anak yang 3. So, the next factor that leads into decrease in biological diversity is climate change. Climate change is something that happens naturally, and it will affect the species and also the ecosystem. In other words, changes in climates will affect the growth of flora and fauna, and not only that, it will also affect the penguin, bears, and also Arctic creatures. For example, when winter season comes, the temperature of the water in lake or sea will become more cold, and it might freeze because of the cold weather. And when winter season is over, the ice will melt and it will increase the level of the water. And furthermore, this climate change can also threaten food security, decrease in water supply, and many more. In other words, it shows that climate change not only affect the flora and fauna, the species, the ecosystem, but it will also affect human.
The first preservation efforts that the government can do is by strengthening the legislation. The government can tighten the legislation, rules, regulation, and create awareness to the citizen. However, for every new legislation that the government have made need to be gazetted, because there are still people are lacking the information. To this, there are incidents that we can see in the River Selangor, where the people abuse their rights which dumping their toxic in the river, which affect the biodiversity at that area. That is why the Environment Act like Influent Discharge Standards and Environmental Quality Act need to be revised and tightened in terms of punishment and fines. As a result, Suhakam has taken an action in enforcing the law with harsher penalties to the offenders. Other than that, government also can create awareness and spread the information through any platform of social media like Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and so on, just like what the Ministry of Environment did. This is an effective way in spreading the information to the citizen.
Another effective way to preserve the environment is use a reusable bag. It is because it can help to save the environment if we use the reusable bag. And it is important to encourage people to use bags that can be reusable because plastic bag is made by the non-renewable resources and it can cause the plastic pollution if the usage of plastic is uncontrolled. Furthermore, reusable bag is help to control the greenhouse gases when it has made by the renewable resources. Also, the material that be used to make the reusable bag, it has a less impact to the environment because it can help to reduce the pollution. Here is some of the programs that support to use the reusable bag, which is in Selangor, it has enforced that plastic bag will be charged 20 cents if the customer want it. So, it will encourage the customer to bring their own bag when go to shopping, and because to avoid to be charged 20 cents, they will be bring their own bag. So, based on this attitude, it will help us to save the environment from any pollution that can bring global warming and impact towards animal and plant.
Another preservation efforts that can be done is tree planting. Tree is the organisms that are capable to protect environment. It can maintain the water quality, soil, and air as it removes the pollutants from the air. Tree planting could give a lot of benefit to the natural environment. Hence, tree planting needs all the cooperation from all the people, whether big corporate organization, NGO agency, and the government in every country needs to participate by creating an initiative towards these preservation efforts. It is because the deforestation are the main issue when it comes to the development. So, by executing these efforts, we can recover from the destruction that has been done by us.
So another reservation effort that can be made is nature preserve. Nature preserve is something important to help protecting the habitat that is being threatened in order to increase their population. This is because we all know that human activity is one of the factors that leads into causes which it cause extinct animal and also pollution. Having this nature preserve is a very important because it helps to reduce the number of animal being hunting, over exploitation of species through hunting and also fishing. In other words, nature preserve exists in each country, and nature preserve in each country has their own responsibilities and also specialties in order to maintaining, protecting and increasing the number of extinct animals. Nature preserve is also a place where this habitat can get a clean water supply and also air supply. This nature preserve can help to improve the ecosystem and also the living habitat, and it will also protect the biological diversity from being danger and also polluted.
So, in conclusion, biodiversity is an essential ecosystem that its organisms are dependent on one another. As the most intelligent biological life, Humans need to preserve the environment for the sake of the continuous life in the biodiversity system that complex, and it will cause the chain reaction if any changes that happen in the ecosystem of biodiversity. That's all from us. Thank you.